wants to establish the US as the global manufacturing powerhouse. He wants the US to be more of an exporter than an importer. And what this does is it lowers the trade deficit, saves money, and protects jobs in America. His strategy is painful in the beginning and rewarding in the end. From Trump's perspective, tariffs solve two problems for America. They reduce the trade deficit, which ultimately leads to reducing the national debt, and they incentivize manufacturing and technology to flood into the US borders. From his perspective, the US can't lose, simply because the US is the largest importer in the world, which means it's the largest spender of goods outside of the US. This massive spending is at the same time a revenue stream for other countries who sell their goods to the US. And that revenue feeds their labor markets and their economy. Now, the problem for the US is that expenses are larger than incomes. Exports are income, while imports are expenses. And in terms of trade, expenses are much larger than incomes, to the tune of negative $1 trillion a year. Now, Trump blames the existing tariffs put in place against the US, so he's using reciprocal tariffs of equal amount to pressure opposing countries into removing their tariffs. But if other countries don't comply, they will naturally fall into recession much faster than the US, considering they rely significantly more from the US consumer than the US relies on them to grow its GDP. Tariffs simply incentivize companies to move their production lines right back into the US, and that pulls labor and GDP from those other countries. We already have lots of evidence of onshoring and reshoring into the US. So these companies are punished if they stay out of the US, rewarded if they come in, and rewarded again with a tax cut if they move to the US. So as the trade war goes on, there's a huge incentive to move your supply chain into the US, making the US a much bigger manufacturing force than it has been in the past. And yes, that is inflationary, but not if energy prices are tanking, and that's what we're starting to see. So over time, the weaker these economies become, the more desperate they become to make a trade deal. And the more they resist, the more painful the economic siege. Now, one of the catalysts for the market would be the announcement of reciprocal tariff reductions. So Trump believes with the Fed at his back and with more stimulus in the future, he can't lose the trade war. As long as the trade war escalates, the market will corner the Fed into cutting rates. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave me a comment. Stay blessed.